Thanks for joining me for another fantastic day of Algebra 1. Today we're going to be talking about the different parts of a line, and more specifically, a linear equation. When we have the equation of a line, there are some important features that we can actually figure out just from the equation. So let's dive right in. If you look at this equation that I've given you in your notes, this is what's called the slope-intercept form. There's actually a few different forms for linear equations. You can think of it like transformers. Transformers have their robot form where they look like a robot, and then they have their vehicle form where they look like a vehicle. I know because my 5-year-old son is obsessed with them, so think of linear equations kind of like transformers. They can be in a couple of different forms, but it's still the same line, still the same thing. So in the slope-intercept form, we get two very important pieces of information. We get the slope, which we've been talking about a little bit in class. The slope is going to be this m value, okay? So it's going to be some number in front of x, all right? And that is the slope value. The other value that we get from this equation that's very helpful is the y-intercept. The y-intercept. That is the b. You're going to make sure that you keep that sign attached because the sign in front always stays attached. Now you may be asking yourself, okay, the slope that we've talked about in class measures the steepness of a line, how much it's moving or how much it's changing. The y-intercept tells you where it crosses the y-axis. So where is it going to intercept that axis, okay? And it will always be in a point where the x value is 0 and the intercept, the place on the line where it crosses, is b, okay? Now later on, when we start graphing, this is the best form for graphing, and here's why. The b is where you begin. You find that point on your graph and you start there. You put a point there. The m tells you how to move. Because remember, it's rise over run for slope. So the b value tells you where to start your line, and the slope, the m value, tells you how to move to find the next point. Pretty neat, huh? But don't worry, we'll get to that a little bit later when we start graphing. For today, we're just worried about how these two pieces fit into an equation of a line. So let's take a look. You will have some situations like you see in your packet where you are given a slope, which is your m value. Slope is 2/5, or negative 2/5 rather, excuse me. And your y-intercept is 4, and there's no sign out front, so we know that it's a positive 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this formula that we had up here, and we are just going to plug in our value for m and b. So let's take a look. We've got y equals m. Okay, well, m is negative 2/5 times x plus b. b is positive 4, so positive 4 is the rest of my equation. And that's all there is to it. Now, since this is right next to the variable, it doesn't have to be in parentheses. So to simplify this, just to make it look a little bit neater, you can break it out of parentheses and just write it right next to your variable. And that's all there is to it. You've written the equation of a line that begins at positive 4, and it will move following a slope of negative 2/5. So it will go down 2 and over 5 to get to the next point. Pretty neat, huh? Let's take a look at another example. Number 19. So number 19, we have our slope is 3/5. So our y-intercept, this should say 1. Just a bit of a typo there. Sorry about that. Y-intercept is 1. So let's write our equation. We should have y equals our slope, 3/5 times x, and then our b value, which in this case is a positive 1. So plus 1. Just to double check and make sure, we have our slope here being multiplied by our x, and we have our y-intercept here telling us where to begin when we go to graph. Why don't you pause the video, take a look at number 18 and 20, come on back when you think you've got it. How'd you do? Let's rush through these and see if you did the same thing that I would do. All right, so I've got two pieces of information here. I have my slope, good. I have my y-intercept, good, awesome. So my equation then is going to be y equals m, which is my slope, times x, and then my y-intercept value, which is positive 5. So that means when I go to graph this, I will begin at positive 5 on the y-axis, and I will move 3. Up 3 over 1. Is that what you got? Let's take a look at number 20. Number 20, we have a slope of 3/2. Our y-intercept is -2. So that means our formula is y equals our slope, 3/2 times x, and then our y-intercept value this time is -2. Be careful with that sign. Remember, the sign stays attached to the b value, so whatever they tell you the b value is, make sure that you include the sign when you write your equation. All right, now sometimes they like to get tricky, and they won't just tell you straight out that it's the y-intercept. They want you to be on the lookout for those two pieces of information. So why don't you take a look at part 2 of this concept, where we will jump into the next type of problem that you will see that involves slope and y-intercept and writing the equation of a line.